Hi everyone, I'm Mims and welcome to the channel. Thanks for being here. So today's video is actually a viewer request. At the end of August, I highlighted a deck that was given to me by Dark Synevyr, the Tarot of Unknown Shadows. And I mentioned, I think in the video, that I had a couple of their other decks. And in the comments of that video, a lovely viewer asked if I would share the other two decks they had, or the other two decks of theirs that I had. So what I thought I would do, and I've been doing like sub collections or categories of collections videos anyway, and so it just felt like, well, sure, I'll do that one. And so the other reason that I wanted to do it so soon is because right after I filmed that video and posted that video, Dark Synevyr, which is an independent tarot publisher based in the Ukraine, one of their Instagram posts mentioned that the tariffs were really affecting them, and that they mentioned that once apparently they keep some stock in like decks stocked in the US, and then I think they have some in the EU, and then I think also some, I'm not sure, but for sure I know they said they had decks in the decks in the United States, and they said once they were out of that stock, it was going to be hard for them to restock and keep selling. And in fact, because the majority of their customers are based in the United States, it may force them to go out of business. So I don't have any affiliation with this company other than they offered, back in the summer of 25, they offered, well, so just a couple of months ago, they offered people a chance to get a free deck in the exchange of sharing the deck on their platform. So I did a flip through again, and I'll include that video below. So I was given this deck, but the other two decks of theirs that I have, I actually bought in the summer of 24. So, but I really am a fan of what they do. And then of course, you know, they're based in the Ukraine, so they've already probably had a hard time just based on the last few years. And then in addition to that, because of the upcoming tariffs. And so I just wanted to share these with the idea that if you were thinking about getting some decks from Dark Synevyr, this would be a lovely time to do so. They have, I think, really unique decks and also really good prices, and there's often a sale on their website. So what I'm going to do in this video, I will put the timestamps below so that you can see, and I'm going to do a full flip through. I'm going to do it kind of fast so that this video isn't very long because it's 3 whole decks, and I've already done a flip through of this, but I wanted to do so that you can see all 3 decks that I happen to have. And it's going to vary based on where you are, what decks are available. In the past, I had offered free worldwide shipping, but I think with tariffs that may be affected. So again, you'll need to check the website. They also have on their website, you can check and see if if your favorite tarot shop may stock their decks as well. So that could be a way to support Dark Synevyr as well as to support your local tarot shop. So we have 3 decks. I'll do this one first just because it's the most recent. It's the Tarot of Unknown Shadows. And then I will show the Ether Tarot, and I will show Vivid Spirit Tarot. One thing about each of these 3, I don't know if that's with all of their decks, but it happens to be that with the 3 decks that I have, each of these decks has 80 cards. So there's 2 extra cards in here. And none of these decks, these have been shuffled and so forth, so none of these are going to be in order. But we'll just go through them. Okay. And like I said, if you've already seen one of these decks, I'll put the timestamps below. And again, I'm going to go kind of quickly just so that it's not such a long video. At least the 3 decks that I have a similar tuck box. And you can see that there's space. It's one of my favorite kind of tuck boxes, in that there's plenty of space to put both the booklet and the 80 cards, and you're not stuck like forcing that last card in, worried about things getting bent. All of their tuck boxes, again, at least of the 3 decks that I have, are all similar. And then the instruction booklet. So the Tarot of Unknown Shadows, they have, usually there's multiple languages. For instance, this Tarot of Unknown Shadows has in English, Ukrainian, and Spanish. And then, but they feature all of the cards, and there's like just a short paragraph about each one. So while minimal, it still gives you something on every card. And the other thing that I love about these is that the minor arcana gets as much attention as the major arcana. Okay, so that's the booklet. And then I'll also talk about cardstock, because all of these have the same cardstock. It's very thin, very easy to shuffle, but if you're an overhand shuffler, you may see, or I mean if you do like bridge shuffling, you may see that they'll start to bend. I have noticed, I've watched a couple of reviews and sometimes people complain about them. I've always been an overhand shuffler, and in fact that was in one of the instructions in one of the first books that when I was learning tarot, was to do overhand shuffling, because then it wasn't going to damage your cards. So if you're concerned about the cardstock, they're definitely easy to shuffle, but it's a bit thinner than some people may like. I actually love it. They definitely, you know, so they may get a bit of bend to them, but I still think it's a quality cardstock. It's just thin. Okay, so these are the backs. I love those. It's kind of eerie almost. Okay, this is one of the extra cards. This is light. And yeah, we'll just shuffle through. Oh, and then the other thing I did, you'll probably notice there's the white lettering, and I found it difficult to read, especially because these are kind of dark and shadowy. So I ended up just sort of writing over it with a black marker. And I don't have the best handwriting, but I kind of did it. So I did want to let you know about that mod that I did. Okay. And I'm going to tilt them a little bit just because of the light that I'm using, so that you can see them. I love this deck. It had been on my wish list for a long time. Well, for at least a year, over a year. And I had seen it on, I think, a couple people's channels. And then this is the 4th edition. And so when they offered the free deck, and I asked, I told them there were a couple different ones that I was interested in. So I was really excited that this one is the one that I was sent, because it had been on my wish list for a while. And this is, you know, photo collage. And I just think that it's beautiful and unique. And I think it makes a great deck for fall. It's also, I think, you know, if you want to use it for shadow work, it reminds me a little bit of how there's a mass market deck that's comprised of old photos that I think was sort of designed to be used for like ancestral work. So I definitely think it's a deck that you could use for all of the above. Or if you just want like a fun, sort of different looking deck. This has to be one of my all-time favorite Sun cards. I just love that. And one of the things that I loved because of those dark shadows, I felt like using black marker, it blends in quite well, and it just made it easier for me to read, because you can kind of see how the white font can maybe be a little tricky. And again, I know I'm going kind of fast, but I wanted to be able to show you all 3 decks because this was a viewer request, and also I just thought I'd hate to see this publisher go out of business, and I really appreciate the unique decks that they offer and what they do. And yeah, I think these are just, it's a beautiful deck. And look at that death card. I love that one as well. And this, so I'm tilting them just so that the light doesn't reflect as much so you can see it. And again, I'm just going quickly so that we can see all 3 decks in a relatively short video. And I know that was a comment on one of my other flip throughs of an entirely different deck that I had gone through a bit quickly. And so I will normally try to go a little more slowly when I'm doing a flip through, but in this case, I just wanted to share the 3 Dark Synevyr decks that I had. And so that was Tarot of Unknown Shadows. Next we'll do, let's see, next we will do Vivid Spirit Tarot. Oops, if I can get this back. There we go. Okay, Vivid Spirit. So again, the same tuck box and same kind of booklet. And again, this one has English. This one is just in Ukrainian and in English. And these are the backs. Again, this one also has 80 cards, so here's the wind. And then we'll just, again, we'll do kind of a quick flip through. I think because of the color, this one reminds me a bit of like an underwater, like its own world. It could be deep in the forest, it could be deep in the water. I just feel, even though there are trees and things, like in this case, but it still kind of feels like it could just be completely of its own world. And I first came across these decks, Dark Synevyr, in 2024. They had an Etsy shop, and I'm not exactly sure when they stopped shipping from the Etsy shop, but they also ship directly on their website, and then, like I mentioned, They also have on their website, if you wanted to look and see if your favorite metaphysical store or tarot store stocks their decks. I love this Hierophant. And I love these paintings. I just think that what they do is so unique. And these are 3 of my all-time favorite decks. And I've had them, well, the Tarot of Unknown Shadows has been on my wish list for over a year. And I've had these other 2 decks since the summer of 24. But I've worked with them a lot, and I really enjoy them. And I know they've done pre-orders, and they do, I think they've done some Kickstarters, and I'm not sure how long they've been publishing decks. But I think all 3 of these decks are unique, beautiful artistry, and all just, you know, very different. Look at that Lover's card. Oh, just, yeah. So when Megan asked if I would share the decks, oh, here we go, here's the Spirit. That's another one of the extra cards. I just remember thinking, oh, that's a fun video to do. And I had been making like categorical collection videos, you know, like coming up with a theme or a collection within, or a category within my collection, and then making videos that I could post, you know, throughout the year. I had a little staycation for, in the early part of the summer, and I made several videos with the idea that I would make these little themed videos within my collection that I could then just post in a week. But this is right after I got that comment, I thought, well, let's go ahead, and if I know my channel is tiny, but any support that I can throw behind to help Dark Synevyr as a, you know, as an independent Ukrainian publisher making beautiful and unique tarot decks, I just thought, let's do that. And I definitely wanted to share that. So that one is Vivid Spirit Tarot. And there was no creator listed on the Tarot of Unknown Shadows. Vivid Spirit is listed as the creator for the Vivid Spirit Tarot. And the curator of all of these decks is Iurii and Nazarenco. And then last deck is Ether Tarot, and this one is by Vereshchaka. So this is Ether Tarot, and again, same thing, same tuck box, and you can see there's plenty of space. It's kind of the perfect amount. There's plenty of space to be able to put the cards in the booklet back, but they're not going to bounce around too much that where it would damage the cards. Oops. And so there's the booklet, and the booklet for at least the edition that I have, the second edition of Ether Tarot, has in English and then Ukrainian, yeah, And this is, I think, what was listed in one of the other booklets. I'll just read this real quickly. We would like to share with you some thoughts regarding our dreams, values, and shed light on the direction we are evolving. It is evident that the world production in the field of tarot these days is leaning towards soulless copying and printing for the mass market. Cards are losing not only their uniqueness, but an essential internal mystery as well. So our main intent is to preserve and spread further this fragile magic spirit that's about to dissolve. Here are the 3 basic aspects we rely on. 1, we want our decks to be appropriate for the tarot reading in itself, not to just be a useless mixture of images randomly intertwining with symbols lacking of any meaning. 2, behind any deck should be a strong concept with an elaborate symbolism. And 3, we want to move towards historical technologies of the past in order to avoid modern copying and printing industry trends with its spiritual emptiness. Thus, we are willing to maximize the usage of natural materials and ingredients, handcrafts, so one can perceive the very soul of our creations rather than cold-blooded calculation of a merchant. And then 4, we want to create decks that will only grow in value over time. So we guarantee that we are always ready to redeem your deck at the recommended price, as if you wanted to return it. For 1, I love their statement, and then 2, I love that they're striving for that uniqueness. I have some of these cards in reverse, so let me just get them kind of back into shape, or there we go. Okay, this deck has one of my all-time favorite backs. It reminds me of like a winter rose garden that maybe wasn't pruned. And it's just, yeah. So this deck is, again, the Ether Tarot. So I know, yeah. And again, I'll go kind of quickly just so you can see them all. And this one also has 2 extra cards. So at least of the 3 decks that I have of theirs, all of them have 2 extra cards. And I really like that. I think that's a neat touch. I enjoy when one of those extra cards pops up in a reading. It always just gives me a little delight and a great excuse to see, what they say. And then, if you don't like reading with them, it's easy to pull those cards out. I love how these kind of look like photo negatives, maybe with some painting. I'm not even sure, but they're just stunning. So this has a similar color palette to that, the Tarot of Unknown Shadows. This Judgment card. Look at that. Oh, it's so beautiful. I love all these flowers and the symbols. And look at this Fool. And despite me going so quickly, you really could just linger over any of their decks, I think. And despite all 3 of these decks being made by the same publisher, they're all very different. Despite there being kind of a similar color palette. I love just how unique they are. Like different from each other and different from anything else that I have in my collection. Oh, and I love this Queen of Wands. And while I have a lot of mass market decks in my collection, one, I definitely want to I definitely want to think about my budget, and whatever my budget is, I definitely want to be supporting more independent artists and independent presses. And I mean, I guess I've always known this, but if you think about, the personal is always political. And I'm not saying that buying a deck is the same as being an activist, like, not at all. But where I can support my time, my energy, my dollars, and and even within my even within my channel, just wanting to show some of those decks, and just to appreciate how lucky I am to get to have more than one deck in my collection, and how lucky I feel that I stumbled upon Dark Synevyr, and how I love their decks, and I don't want them to go out of business. So I'm definitely going to be getting some decks from them, I think as soon as I can, and to take a look. Again, I have no affiliation with them, but they did send me that one deck, and I had already 2 of their decks in my collection. And then when I saw that post about their really being affected by the tariffs, I wanted to do what I could where I can, and so, like I said, and then the comment from my flip through of the Terror of Unknown Shadows, I thought, well, this is the perfect time to make that video, share these 3 decks, and then I will include the link to their social media as well as their website, so that you can go and maybe buy one of those decks. Anyway, thanks for your time. I hope you're well. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're finding ways to take care of others and the earth in a mutual aid sense. And what do you think of these decks? Do you have any of these in their collection? Do you have others from Dark Synevyr? Is there another, does your local tarot shop stock independent decks? I would love to hear. Thanks again for being here, and I hope to see you in the next video.